Tasha had warned them repeatedly to stay away, but they ignored her. Determined to make sure they'd never dare to try again, she took matters into her own hands. At 42, Tasha Williams had built her life from the ground up. Her home, a stunning 2-story house in Chandler, Arizona, was her pride and joy. The backyard, her personal sanctuary, featured lush palm trees lining the fence and a pristine, sparkling pool at its center. She wasn't one to boast, but she had every right to be proud. She'd earned it all through years of hard work, careful saving, and smart decisions. No handouts, no shortcuts, just relentless effort. The neighborhood was a mix of families, some welcoming, others more reserved. Tasha didn't mind the lack of interaction. She valued her peace and quiet above all else. But that peace was shattered one Saturday afternoon. Returning home from errands, she noticed wet footprints leading from her backyard gate to the sidewalk. At first, she assumed it was the landscaper or a utility worker. Then she spotted a soaked towel tossed carelessly over her fence. Her pool's water level had dropped, the float was moved, and a half-empty soda can sat on her lounge chair. Someone had trespassed. She tried to stay calm, giving the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a kid who'd panicked and fled. But when she asked her neighbors, they dismissed it with casual shrugs. "Probably just one of the kids," one woman chuckled. "You know how they are." Another neighbor, a man in his 50s, barely glanced up from his car. "They're just having fun. You've got a nice pool, Miss Williams. People notice." His tone grated on her, but she held her tongue, tightening the gate lock and hoping it wouldn't happen again. It did. A week later, she heard splashing and laughter from her living room. Peeking out the back door, she saw a teenage boy swimming in her pool as if it were his own, while a girl, likely his sister, dangled her feet in the water. Tasha stormed outside. "Excuse me," she snapped. The boy scrambled out, stammering. "We didn't think you'd mind." Tasha's voice was icy. "You didn't think to ask?" The girl mumbled something about living nearby before they bolted. Tasha stood there, heart racing, clutching a dripping towel. She wanted to let it go, but the excuses from their parents the next day infuriated her. "They're just kids," the mother said dismissively. "It's hot. What's the big deal?" Tasha's voice was steady but firm. "The big deal is that this is my property, my home, my pool. I don't recall handing out invitations." The father muttered. "You're being dramatic." Dramatic. That word always seemed to come from those who weren't the ones being disrespected. Tasha bit back her anger and installed security cameras, hoping it would send a message. For 2 weeks, it worked. No more footprints, no more wet towels, no more uninvited swimmers. She thought she'd finally made her point. But then, on a sweltering Saturday, she returned home to find her side gate ajar. A sinking feeling gripped her as she walked to the backyard. What she saw left her stunned. Her yard was packed with people, not just kids but adults, too. Lounge chairs were taken, beer bottles littered the ground, and someone had even set up a folding table with snacks. Her pool was full, with women wading waist-deep, chatting as if they owned the place. A man leaned against the pool ledge, sipping a drink with a grin. For a moment, Tasha wondered if she was hallucinating. Then she locked eyes with Sandra, a neighbor from 3 houses down, who'd never spoken to her before. Sandra waved casually. "Hey girl, hope you don't mind. It's so hot today we figured we'd cool off." Tasha's jaw tightened. "Mind? Oh, I mind." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the noise. "Every single one of you, get out, now." Some froze. Others exchanged looks, as if she were overreacting. But Tasha wasn't backing down. This was her home, her sanctuary, and she was done being disrespected. Sandra rolled her eyes, her tone dripping with condescension. "Oh, don't be like that. It's just a pool. You weren't even home." Tasha stepped forward, her anger simmering just below the surface. "It's not just a pool, it's my pool, my house, my yard. You don't live here, you don't pay for this, so get out, all of you." Someone in the crowd muttered under their breath, "Geez, what's her problem?" That was the final straw. Tasha stormed over to the pool equipment box, grabbed the remote, and shut off the pool filter. Then, with a sharp yank, she disconnected the power cord to the speakers, plunging the yard into silence. "I'm calling the police," she announced, her voice firm and unwavering. That got them moving. Drinks were hastily snatched up, towels wrapped around shoulders, and within minutes, her yard was empty. Except for Sandra, who had the nerve to roll her eyes on her way out. "You don't have to be so uptight," she muttered. "Nobody was hurting anything." Tasha clenched her fists. Tasha had tried everything. Talking, reasoning, security cameras, locks, but none of it had worked. Now it was time to get creative. She sat at her kitchen table, replaying the security footage from earlier that day. The sheer audacity of these people, acting like her property was some kind of public amenity, made her blood boil. She wasn't just angry anymore. She was done. If they wanted to keep treating her pool like the neighborhood water park, she was about to make sure their next visit would be their last. First, she made a trip to the hardware store. She picked up 2 heavy-duty locks, one for the side gate and one for the pool equipment box. The old ones were sturdy, but these were practically unbreakable. Next, she went online and ordered a special chemical treatment for her pool. Not chlorine, something stronger. It wasn't dangerous, just a harmless yet highly effective trick used by public pools to expose rule breakers. It was called pool dye, a chemical that turned the water bright green if someone peed in it. Yes, if even one of those freeloaders tried to use her pool again, they'd leave looking like a radioactive alien. But that was just the beginning. Tasha wanted insurance, something that would make them think twice before ever stepping foot in her yard again. She went to a local sign shop and had a custom pool sign made. The next morning, she drilled it onto her fence where everyone could see. It read, "Warning. Pool chemically treated for unauthorized use. Exposure may cause rash, severe itching, or temporary skin discoloration." Did it sound extreme? Absolutely. Was any of it true? Not at all. But they didn't know that. To sell the illusion, she placed an empty hazardous chemical container near the pump, something she'd borrowed from a friend who worked in maintenance. Now all she had to do was wait. It didn't take long. The next hot afternoon, Tasha sat by her window, sipping iced tea and watching. For most of the day, it was quiet, until she saw a couple of teenagers walking past her fence. They stopped, read the sign, and one of them whispered something to the other before pointing at the chemical container. Within seconds, they turned around and walked away. Tasha smirked. Later that night, Sandra, the same entitled neighbor from the pool party, was walking her dog when she spotted the sign. She squinted at it, pulled out her phone, and started typing. Tasha checked Facebook a few minutes later, and there it was. A post in the neighborhood group. "FYI, looks like Tasha put some kind of weird chemical in her pool. Says it causes rashes and skin issues. Not sure how safe that is. Just a heads up." The comments poured in. "OMG, what if it leaks into the ground? That doesn't sound legal. Why does she even care so much? It's just water." Tasha laughed out loud. They weren't mad because she was lying or because they'd been caught. They were mad because they realized their free ride was over. And if they wanted to test her, they were more than welcome to try. For the first time in months, Tasha finally felt at peace. No more random towels, No more strangers in her yard. No more disrespect. She had reclaimed her sanctuary, and she wasn't letting it go. The tranquility Tasha had fought so hard to restore seemed secure. No more uninvited guests lounging in her yard, no more entitled attitudes. Her plan appeared to have worked, or so she believed. But then came the knock. It was a Thursday evening when she heard it. Sharp, impatient rapping on her front door. She set her glass down and peered through the peephole. Sandra stood there, arms crossed, her face a mask of irritation. Tasha sighed. "Here we go again?" she muttered under her breath. She opened the door, keeping her expression neutral. "Yes?" Sandra didn't waste a second. "We need to talk." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "Do we?" Sandra huffed, her frustration bubbling over. "Look, I don't know what your deal is, but people are saying you put some kind of dangerous chemicals in your pool." Tasha blinked, then allowed herself a small smirk. "I did," she said smoothly, "to keep out uninvited guests." Sandra's jaw tightened. "You can't do that. What if a kid touches the water?" Tasha folded her arms. "A kid who broke into my yard?" Sandra hesitated, then shot back. "That's not the point." "It's exactly the point," Tasha countered. "I told people to stay out. They didn't listen, so I took precautions." Sandra scoffed, her tone dripping with disdain. "You're being ridiculous. You don't even have kids. It's just sitting there going to waste." Tasha tilted her head, her voice calm but firm. "So, because I don't have kids, that means my pool is up for public use?" Sandra rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, don't act like—" Tasha cut her off. "No, you come on, Sandra. You and the rest of these people have some nerve. You don't pay for my water bill, you don't clean my pool, but you expect to just help yourselves?" Sandra's face flushed red. "Well, if you weren't—" To ensure her point was crystal clear, she took one final step the next morning. She installed a motion-activated sprinkler system along the fence. If anyone dared to sneak in again, they'd get an icy surprise. But the best part? She didn't even need to use it. No one tried to trespass again. The days of freeloading were over. After months of frustration, Tasha had finally reclaimed her peace. The pool was hers again, the backyard serene, the entitlement gone. And the best part? She never even had to involve the police. That was never her goal. She wasn't trying to cause a scene or make enemies. She just wanted what was hers to be respected. But here's the truth. Some people won't respect boundaries unless they're forced to. Tasha had tried to be polite. She had given warnings, asked nicely, and they had ignored her at every turn. The moment she flipped the script, they backed off. Because at the end of the day, people will take as much as you allow them to. It doesn't matter if it's your time, your space, your energy, or even your swimming pool. If you don't set boundaries, someone will walk all over you. So, was Tasha petty for what she did? Maybe. But was she wrong? Not even a little. What about you? Have you ever had to stand your ground when people tried to take advantage of you? Or better yet, how would you have handled this situation? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. Thanks for watching, and remember, respect is earned, not given.